Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up! Yes, I have an awesome panel, of course. My usual co-host, Smokin' Jeremy B. Hello, Smokin' Jeremy.
Good evening, Candy, Ralph, and George. How's everybody doing tonight?
We're doing good, thank you.
And next, we have Ralph Williams. Welcome back to the show, Ralph.
Thank you, Candy. Thanks for having me, as always. Appreciate it.
You bet. And Scott's longtime friend and co-host, and one of the attendants at our wedding, Mr. George Eichhorn.
Well, thank you very much. It was a wonderfully cold day in Milwaukee for your wedding.
And it was January 1st and it was 40 degrees. You can't ask for much more.
And then they migrated to Florida.
Good to be back.
Well, it's good to have you. Our first topic, we have to go ahead, Jeremy. Sorry.
They just flew in. Boy, their arms are tired.
Yeah.
Our first topic, we can't deny it. Like, it's the topic of the night because Caitlin Clark finally did it. She set NC2A women's basketball scoring record. She did it in style, and she actually did it in Michigan, back where George and Smokin' Jeremy B are. I have to give her head coach credit, though. Lisa Blunder called a timeout after she set the record to give her time to really bask in that moment. Because let's face it, it's been how long? It's been 6 years it was set. I don't know if it's going to, especially with NIL money, I don't know that anyone's going to break this record again. And she did it, 8 minutes into the first quarter or something, quarter like that. She had 23 points in the first quarter. I mean, it's unbelievable. I just think I give her a whole lot of credit. I don't know that it'll be broken again. It might be, but with NIL money, you just never know. Let's see. Smokin' Jeremy B, what's your take on Caitlin Clark and her setting this record?
I think it's an amazing feat. And I'm glad for her coach taking the time out to let her bask in it, to take the moment in. Because a lot of times coaches forget the individual achievements like that, whether the team's doing great or not, which I was actually doing much better than Michigan men's basketball. That's on both sides, whether it's women's or men's. They're both doing better than Michigan men's basketball. But at the same time, coaches need to give these young kids their chance to have their flowers, because once they go pro, they don't get that shot until at the end of a quarter or the end of an inning or when they walk off the field, like with a walk-off home run or something like that. They don't get their flowers till they're off the field, not while they're playing the game.
George, your take.
Well, congratulations to Caitlin. Remarkable achievement. The 16-9 U of M women are only losing by 14 points right now to Iowa in the third quarter. But it's just a remarkable achievement. Women's basketball, I've admired it for a long time, but more recently than not, it's really come on strong. And people forget that, they've got their own season-ending tournament. They've got their Final Four. It's played sometimes the same weekend. I think now it is. Most of the time it's the same weekend as the men, but in a different city, of course. But you've had sellout crowds for NCAA playoffs for women for many, many years now. And that's really been tremendous growth all across the country. But yeah, hats off to Caitlin. What a great career objective there. And you're right, Candy. It may never be topped again with all the craziness going on in college sports right now, especially with the NIL. And I really do think that she has a wonderful future ahead of her, obviously professionally, if she wants to continue on with the WNBA. But there's just, take some time and enjoy this one. I'm glad that the coach did that, Candy, and gave her a chance to soak it all in.
I agree. I do want to add and correct myself. She needed only 8 points Thursday night home game against Michigan to break the all-time record of 3,527. The game against Michigan was a sold-out crowd of more than 15,000 fans. She will be honored following the game Thursday night on the court. Her next target will be the all-time major women's college scoring record, which was held by Kansas Lynette Woodard of 3,649 points from 1977 to 81. Women's sports were governed by the Association of Intercollegiate Athletics for Women during Woodard's college era. That's why there's a difference between NC2A and the women's college. So she broke the record for 35-27. She's now going for 36-49. Ralph, your opinions on Caitlin Clark?
Well, it's a great achievement for women's basketball and college women's basketball. It's good that she was able to score 33 points, which was way more than what she needed. And it's great to see it happen at Iowa. Iowa really doesn't get the play that most of these other schools get. Like Michigan, and which, as Jeremy mentioned, they get a little more of the play than Iowa as far as girls basketball goes, unless you live out near Iowa. But like around here in the East and stuff like that, Iowa's not even on the radar. So it's great that she's able to put Iowa, as far as women's college basketball on the map there with what she's doing.
I agree. I want to say hello to Brian Cushing because he's saying hi, folks. Thanks for
Hello.
commenting and being part of our show. I just revel in Caitlin Clark, and I applaud her, and I wish her the best trying to get the record and for what her future career is going to be in the WNBA, if that's what she chooses. On to our next topic, a little more near and dear to my heart. All this violence. One of my girls, I am on a podcast, Three Chicks and a Pod, or Chicks and Salsa. One of the girls her name is Carrie. If you all know her, she's a Chiefs chick. She follows the Chiefs religiously because she lives there and she loves them and followed them for forever. She was at the parade yesterday. They left just before that shooting. She figures she would have been about 50 feet away from that shooting had she stayed. I'm saddened that this is what our country has come down to. I'm saddened because as I think of some of the tragedies that have happened in the world, and I think back to like 9/11, and I think one of the things that helped the country get back to some sort of normalcy was when the sports started and when they were paying tribute and we all came together as a country, unified. Then we had more and more violence, and we've had more and more violence. We had when I think of the Boston Marathon, and they had the tragedy there, and then how they talked about that and how the New York teams even, came together. And I always think of sporting events and sports as a way to come together and not necessarily, yes, you're playing against another team and there's a division like that, but it's a unity of the sport. And now we're seeing in basketball people brawling. Really? Like, leave that for the hockey field. That's what you think hockey is about. But to have a parade celebrating your Super Bowl champs, and then there be gun violence. And when I say gun violence, I don't just mean people getting injured. There was a fatality. And maybe this is a soapbox, and maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but I kind of feel that I have a voice and I have a platform, and I want to voice it. And I'm not talking about should there be gun laws or shouldn't there be gun laws. There has to be a way that we all come together and we respect each other and we stop the violence, period. I, for one, love you can talk about, everybody jokes about my house being divided. My husband's a Lions fan and I'm a Packers fan, and they clash. And oh, 2 times a year you guys are probably at war. No, we're not at war. I respect him for who he picks. He has passion for his team. I have passion for my team, but we still are together. You can have differing opinions, and one doesn't have to be right and one doesn't have to be wrong. Stop the division, stop the violence. That's what it is. I mean, plain and simple. Okay, so I'm going to let some of the rest of the panel talk, because if you've watched any of the shows I've been on, all shows I've talked about this week. So let's start with Ralph. What's your opinion on all the violence that's going on in the world and in sporting events now too?
Well, I have 2 shows on Monday. One's at 11 a.m. on Blog Talk Radio. It's called Ralph's Opinion. I talk a lot of national stuff, and I also blast some of these people for some of the stuff that they do. At night at 7 p.m., I have a show called The Way We See It, where I team up with a guy named Bill Canada, and we do a show called The Way We See It, okay, which is mostly about local stuff that goes on in Pittsburgh, but we talk a little bit of national stuff. The Joe Osteen thing got to me big time. And Candy, the 3 things that you're supposed to be safe at, you're not. You're not safe at your church anymore. You're not safe in your home anymore. And you're not safe in your school anymore. Okay? And I've said this many times on my platforms, on my shows, that we live in a society right now that is an I don't care society and a lazy society. Nobody wants to do anything about anything. Nobody wants to talk about anything. And nobody wants to, and nobody cares. And it's a really sad thing here. And this Kansas City Chiefs parade situation, shameful. Okay. And I agree with you 100% about this. Now some kids are hurt. Someone's dead. This is disgusting. And now what's going to lead to coming down the road is we're going to have to watch it virtually from now on, because we can't be safe around anybody out there in the outdoors. Ever since COVID, everybody's gone crazy about everything.
George, your opinion on violence in sports and what's going on?
Well, it's long been said that sports is a reflection of society, in the fact that even though you're enjoying a game, let's say, you're still, you have in the back of your mind things that are going on in the world and the problems of the world. And I think that part alone has gotten even worse over the years, obviously, because I was there when Ron Artest went into the stands in Detroit at the Palace of Auburn Hills. And then Malice at the Palace, as they called it. That was a horrible evening. I was so disgusted sitting there and watching that unfold as a media member. I was fortunate enough to be covering the game. And then the violence that I saw with the fans going after it, and this Indiana Pacers team going after it with fighting fans. It was just a disgusting moment. And the other one that was a disgusting moment for me was, go back many, many years, and Jeremy will remember, we had a pitcher named Dave Rozema for the Detroit Tigers. And we were playing the Minnesota Twins at Tiger Stadium. And 2 of our best friends were there with us, Joanne and Alan. And we had seats not far from home plate, up, behind the screen. And there was an incident that happened in that game where one of the Tiger players almost got hit. Or possibly, if I go back in my archives, maybe he did get hit, but he charged the mound. And of course, that's a free ticket, as we know in baseball, for all the players to empty on the field. They don't, even if you're, half a field away over there in the bullpen, they all got to come running out. And Dave Rozema, a stupidest thing I've ever seen, did a flying kung fu at the face of one of the Minnesota Twin players. And I looked at my wife and our friends, and I said, "This is disgusting." I says, "I don't even feel like staying here any longer." And they, what? No, what our player just did, he almost gave a kung fu spike in somebody's face. It was the stupidest thing, and I can never forgive Rozema for that, because he just aggravated the situation. So the problem is that we're carrying these things over onto the field. How about Kelsey going after his coach in the biggest game of the year, the Super Bowl? The nasty behavior, what he did and showed to all of the Americans and people around the world watching that game. Uncalled for. I'm sorry. He can apologize all he wants, but he was stupid. And Andy Reid, I would have just, I don't know. He kept his cool, but I wouldn't have. So what we're seeing now is really something that I think stinks, is because, and this is a continual trend we're seeing, where they're bringing this stuff inside the arena, or in this case, at a Super Bowl parade. God help us. And we've seen it happen at 4th of July parade, and we've seen people driving cars into people, and it is a problem. And you're absolutely right. We've got to sit down as civilized people. We've got to get something done about this together. And I know that the different presidents and politicians have tried and tried, but we just can't seem to make any progress on it. So sports is a microcosm of American life, but I don't like it in that sense, the violent part of it. And yes, I agree. We've got to do something, Candy.
Smoking Jeremy B, your thoughts?
Mm. The violence in America, Dave, and the way it's combined with sports lately, and you can take it back to when Michigan State won the national championship back in 2001, when the fans at Michigan State started setting fires to cars and couches and flipping over teachers and faculties, the staffers and everybody else's vehicles in the parking lot. And then you look at Detroit when the Red Wings won, when they set fires that year. When the Pistons won in 2004, they set fires again. I mean, the violence has always been here, and it doesn't help that it's on mainstream TV, and parents use their TVs as babysitters for these kids, and they see it happen on TV. And I'm not saying it makes it okay, but we don't have parents saying, "Hey, just because it's on TV doesn't mean you should do it." Because that's what our parents used to say to us when we'd see something stupid on TV or on the news. So, and lo and behold, it's not our generation doing it, is it? And I don't want to get on my soapbox. I don't want to go political, but you know what? Maybe they do got to tighten up the background checks for gun purchases. Period. I'm not saying ban any type of gun. I'm not saying doing any of that. But there has been proof that there has been certain mental health issue medications these guys have been on, and they've gone and still done this type of stuff because the side effects that the FDA allows through is ridiculous. And I'll leave it at that.
I agree. I agree. Again, part of it is this whole lack of respect. And I think some of it stems from, and I hate to say this, but what makes so many people think that as parents, I've got to make it better for my kids? Because really, what was so wrong with your childhood? Like we think I've got to give my kids this and I got to give my kids that because I didn't have it. And everybody's doing it. So like if one person does it, then everybody does it. You know?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but I grew up, my dad was a teacher. We were not rich. My dad worked 3 jobs so my mom could stay home and raise us kids. And I like to think that they did a very good job. But did we have a TV in each bedroom? Did we? No. And then I understand that times have changed and things have changed, but we had one computer. For the longest time, we had one TV. We had one phone, and it happened to be in the dining room. And if you want to talk on it, now everybody's got phones. They're walking around with them. I get it. You know.
On a wall attached to a cord.
Yes. But I could go on, and I don't want to get on too much of a soapbox, but
Right.
So one of our features that we always do is a segment from my town. So I'm going to let everybody go around and talk about my town. So we are going to start this time with George.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
everybody's in first place right now, right? In Major League Baseball.
Amen.
Everybody's 0-0, of course, but
Everybody got goose eggs.
yeah, you've heard the cliches. Hope springs eternal. especially for teams that have been lollygagging like the Detroit Tigers. It's hard to believe it's been since 1984, as Jeremy and I know too well, and Scott too, that since the Tigers hoisted the World Series trophy. It's disgusting. It's not just annoying, it's disgusting. This rebuild from the Detroit Tigers is just taken forever. And it's gone through new team presidents, new team general managers, actually a new owner, but that's because the previous owner fell ill and died, unfortunately, Mike Ilitch, and he handed it off to his son. So right now you got a situation where even though people want to be excited, I do admire Scott Harris, the new president of baseball ops. He's been there about a year, but he's kind of backpedaling. Okay, for example, there was a reporter on TV last night trying to get him to say, "Yeah, you're going to be contending. You guys are going to be in contention." He says, "We're not looking at that right now." And again, we've heard this before. We have a plan, we have a schedule, and we have what we're doing as an organization to try to make these young ball players, these young Detroit Tigers, successful. And yes, the Tigers did finish in second place, as many of you know. You should know that, behind the Minnesota Twins. They showed big improvement over the year previous. But the fact of the matter is that's still a very young team. A lot of pitchers have been hurt. A lot of injuries, a lot of pitching injuries the Tigers have endured over the past few years among their young arms. And then it didn't help that Riley Green, one of their promised players in the outfield, he had to have Tommy John surgery. Can you believe that after straining himself, making a fabulous play in the outfield? All that being said, the Tigers, they have a chance to be a contender, but the Twins and the Indians, the Royals and the White Sox are going to have a lot to say about it too. And we know it's not one of the best. In fact, it's probably one of the worst divisions maybe in baseball. But the fact of the matter is you got to prove it on the field. So I like the way the Tigers are going about it. I'm going to give them probably a flyer for maybe this year, but not any longer. They've signed AJ Hinch to a long-term contract, and they've signed a promising second baseman to a long-term contract, Colt Keith. They've got a lot of young people at certain positions, but they also got some older guys that, like Baez at shortstop, who just aren't worth their salary at all. So the Tigers are in a situation where they're trying to mix the young and the old and all that. But I am optimistic. It's always an exciting time. Lakeland, Florida is in the middle of the state, as you most probably know. And there's not much else to do around there, but boy, they love their baseball, and it'll be fun to see. 5 or 6 games are going to be televised. The rest of them will be on radio, and we'll see what happens. So the Tigers are the ones that are on the radar right now. But there's, I know Jeremy's got some other good things to talk about this hometown as well. So thank you for letting me share.
You bet. Ralph, what's going on in your town?
Well, the Pirates are in the same boat there, George. Only difference is I just found something very interesting out that, but I have to have it confirmed before I could say anything because I don't want to have egg on my face. But I heard a rumor that Bob Nutting is going to fire Ben Cherington if this season turns out to be a bust. And I hear that Bob Nutting told Ben Cherington when he first got hired, go out and do what you need to do. I'll give you the money to do it. And he's not doing it. So what I want to know is why. If someone says to me, go out and do it, I'll give you whatever you need, resources and money, go do it. Now, somebody's lying here maybe, or somebody's not telling the truth, but I have a guy down in Bradenton on the 27th on my radio show that's going to come on and tell me this because he's digging into it right now. If this is the case, the Ben Cherington needs to be fired if his team is bad this year. Okay. And he's been our general manager for 5 years. And he developed the Boston Red Sox into a World Series contender. Okay. And everyone thought he could do it here in Pittsburgh. And Bob Nutting, according to stories I've read and from some sources that I've talked to, gave him the official okay to sign and do whatever you need to do. And he's not doing it. So, and now everyone's still blaming Bob Nutting, saying that he's a cheapskate and a tightwad. Well, you know what? If that's the case, I want to know what if it really is. So I have a guy, and I know some of you might know him. His name's John Parado, and he's a friend of mine. He's been on my show a few times. He's been in studio with me on my radio show on Tuesdays on Beaver County Radio. And, so he's going to tell me on the 27th as to actually what's going on here with the Pirates. Penguins, on the other hand, they have all the talent in the world. They can't score goals. We have an overpaid Erik Karlsson, who we brought here and made a trade to bring here or whatnot. And he's done nothing to help the situation. Jake Gensel just got hurt. We got guys that we signed, Riley Smith. We signed a few other guys, Lars Eller, who are stinking up the joint and not doing anything. So I don't know if Mike Sullivan needs to be fired because I don't think his system is working with the players we have. Evgeny Malkin has laid an egg. Sidney Crosby's doing everything he can to carry the team on his back. Chris Letang, on the other hand, is 50-50. And our goalie finally start coming around, Tristan Jarry. So we'll see what the Penguins do. And as far as the Pittsburgh Steelers go, we'll see what's going on here. We just lost Mitch Trubisky, which was no loss to the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay. Smoking Jeremy B. What's happening in your town?
Well, there's a couple of things with the Detroit Lions lately. Hallelujah. Julian Okwara is now a Philadelphia Eagle, which means Romeo Okwara is probably on his way out the door, too, with his overpaid butt. That being said, Lance Newcomb, assistant to the GM, somebody I never heard of in the front office, was hired to be an assistant GM, which is second in command. There's the assistant to the assistant, then
the assistant at the movie theater. Yeah.
Yeah, and this guy was the
Or
assistant.
Fast Times to Richmond High. Yeah.
You never saw anywhere in the media until today that he was hired by the Commanders as their assistant GM. And they also hired a former Lions coach to be their run game coordinator. And I remember while he was offensive coordinator for the Lions, our run game kind of sucked. And that was in 2021. Anthony Lynn is the run game coordinator for the Commanders.
Okay.
I think that's a big mistake because he does really well with running quarterbacks. I don't know how well he does with running backs. And what a great time for Detroit sports. Lions just had their best season in 32 years. The Red Wings are having their best season in 7 years and on the cusp of possibly being a playoff team. And if the Tigers play to the potential that everybody says this roster has, and if they make one move mid-season to push them over the top, they could be in the playoffs. It'll be the first time we've had 3 teams in the playoffs in one calendar year since 2006. Now, if we could just get the Pistons to get rid of Troy Weaver and put a team together, we'd be all right.
Good one. Okay, so my town. I debated what to do, but I decided, it's not March, and we always hear about March Madness in college basketball and how exciting times that is. I'm going to argue with you that the exciting times aren't starting now already. This weekend, my husband and I are going to be going to his alma mater to see USF men's basketball take on Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic has reached as high as, I think, number 10. Right now, they're ranked 24th in the country. Their record right now is 17-5. USF is not in the top 25, but their record is 18-5. USF is actually first in their conference, and Florida Atlantic is actually third in their conference. And they take on each other this weekend at USF. I'm excited for that game. I'm excited to see a basketball stadium where Scott actually got his degree in, and it's supposed to be a sold-out venue of over 10,000 people. What exciting times it is to be going to a basketball game like that. On the flip side, my hometown, The Marquette Golden Eagles are number 4 in the country. This weekend on Saturday, they have their own battle. They are taking on the number 1 in the country, UConn. What an exciting game that should be. So, as I said, it's an exciting time to watch college basketball. Now that football is over and there's a little bit of a break here, go watch a couple of basketball games, college basketball games, not NBA. I'm not a big fan of NBA. NBA is we won't even go into that. But as far as college basketball, go and enjoy that. Start prepping your brackets, because let's face it, March is right around the corner, and how many people do brackets? Start looking at the teams, watching some of these exciting games. You know, when 2 weeks ago, I think we saw FAU play North Texas. It was a seesaw battle the whole game. It came to the last shot of the game to win it. These are exciting times, exciting games. Go out and enjoy. Or sit at home and watch on TV. Because let's face it, you're probably a little safer at home. But as far as this episode, this has been a complete joy. I'm going to go around the room and everybody can let everybody know how they can get a hold of you. So we will start out with Ralph Williams.
Ralph Williams 737 at gmail.com, Facebook, YouTube channel. And I also have Twitter X, Tumblr, and I'm also on LinkedIn. And Friday, don't forget, tomorrow morning, 11 a.m., Ralph Williams, Scott Morganroth from the South Florida Tribune, JT Toth from Draft 412, now known as Draft Nation, Leo Haggerty from Amped Up Sports, The External Bum Show, 11 a.m. on Block Talk Radio, 563-999-3740 to listen to the show, or blocktalkradio.com. Also, Tuesdays, every Tuesday, 4 to 6 p.m., Beaver County Radio, Sports Corner Radio Show with myself, Ralph Williams, Smoking Jim Frazier. And we have an open show this Tuesday. We're opening up to callers, and we want to hear from you. So if you call in, 724-843-1888, and we'll be more than happy to put you on the air. 27th is going to be a great show. We have Steeler guy coming on. We have JB Ellis from Sideline Sports, and we also have John Parado, who's going to tell us if what I said is true about the Pirates. And that is how you can get a hold of me.
Okay, George, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, you can find me, along with such great writers as Scott Morganroth, at Smoking Jeremy B, at the South Florida Tribune, under the Motor City Tribune. And at the end of the column, there's a little link here. If you're interested, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air, the book that tells you all about broadcasting history in Detroit and Michigan. And there's a link there. And also, you can follow me at these shows on the network, Sideline Sports and South Florida Tribune. I'll get it straight. I'm on the 108 Stitches. I've been a guest on the Sports Exchange and Pundit's Pundit and this wonderful show, Fire Up. And you can reach me too on Yahoo at gicorn@yahoo.com, or on LinkedIn under my name as well, Facebook under my name as well, and follow me on Twitter at SanGSports99. Looking forward to a great weekend of sports. I'm glad your guys are making your trip to Tampa. It sounds exciting. Candy, and obviously a little bit of reminiscing, of course, too. So that's wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Smoking Jeremy B, how can people find you?
I'm everywhere. No.
I know.
You can find me on the SouthFloridaTribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading, where you can find my writings underneath the likes of that guy, George Eichhorn, and her hubby, Scott Morganroth. And he also wrote a book, people. Remember, it's on Amazon. There it is. That's it over there. Lessons from the Microphone. Check it out. It's on Amazon and Kindle. Then you can also find me right here on the South Florida Tribune channel with any of these Fire Up shows, because you know what? They're a lot of fun. I love talking sports. We don't just talk football, even though that's my forte, because that's what I write and talk about the most, especially on my channel. which is kneecap biting with the Motor City Lions. I have my morning show, Lions Talk with Smoke and Jeremy B and Von Doom. And then we have my evening primetime shows, which is usually Monday nights, Wednesday nights, and Friday nights at 9:30 p.m., which is just me talking about the NFL and the Detroit Lions. And, it's because I study a little bit. I think I get it right most of the time, even when I write my opinion pieces. I don't know why, but for some reason, it's like I can read into things. Oh, yeah. It's because Candy puts up these wonderful articles I get to read that come out of Allen Park, and I get to see exactly what the coaches and the GM says. It makes it a lot easier to form an opinion when you're informed. I could be out there and being like everybody else and doing all that rumor-based stuff, but it isn't fun that way. I like being factual. I like using stats. I like using facts. It's makes your life a lot easier if they can't find a fault. Try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. It's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts in here. Much love, everybody. And I see my buddy Brian Three Cushion, also known as Brian Roy, came in and said hi, folks.
He did. He did. In fact. Okay, so to find me, you can find my pictures and photos that I take on southfloridatribune.com. You can catch me on a girls podcast. Typically, it's Tuesday nights around 7:30. It's either Three Chicks in a Pod or Chicks and Salsa. This week, we did it on Wednesday night. You can find me whenever Scott needs me on any one of his plethora of shows. I'm in charge of Fire Up. Jeremy and I do them typically on Sunday mornings as well, especially during the football season. We are taking this Sunday off because obviously I'm going to the USF FAU game. So, Jeremy, you get the Sunday off.
I know.
But
I'm so excited.
But we do this show Thursday nights, Fire Up. Before this was Pundit's Pundit. Wednesday nights is always Sports Exchange. Sometimes you'll see Fire Up Michigan. Sometimes you'll see Motor City Mad Mal Show, which is a one-on-one show where Scott interviews one person. Tuesday nights typically is Inside the Pigskin, and Monday nights is normally 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. But catch any one of our shows. If you like it, share it, show us, subscribe to us in the right corner, and subscribe to all of our guests and all of our people that contribute to our shows. They all have their own YouTube channels, and what's important is not only subscribing to us, but subscribing to them, because without them, we wouldn't be here. And without you guys watching, none of us would be here. So we appreciate all of you watching, sharing, showing, telling all your friends about us. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you like podcasts, we're also wherever you get your podcast, Apple, iHeartRadio, Google, Spotify, any of those places, Podcast Addict, CastBox. I mean, we're all over. We broadcast live to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And Scott's book, like Jeremy said, go out and get it. Lessons from the Microphone. It talks about media and how media has changed over his 44 years in the business. It's awesome. It has good pictures. It has good stories, because Scott, if one thing, is not short on words, and he's a storyteller, and he loves sharing his experiences and talking. So go out and get his book, read it, and then, of course, subscribe to our channel. And like I said, subscribe to all of our contributors' channels too, because without them, we wouldn't be here as well. So we appreciate you watching tonight. We appreciate you subscribing and subscribing to everybody else's channel. We hope all of you have a great weekend, and we hope all of you remember you have a voice. Use it for the positive. With that, have a great night. Thanks, everybody.